Sri Lanka's most powerful news brand.
People never lie so much as after a hunt, during a war, or before an election. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. We meet again Monday 9:30 p.m. right here on TV1, live on Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today revolves around something very important. 10th February 2018, we will witness the local government election. What is the way forward for Sri Lanka? And what is the current state of affairs in the political arena right now? And what would happen on the 10th of February 2018? To discuss all this and more, we have invited 4 guests to the studio this evening as well. Let me quickly introduce them to you. Joining us on the show again is Ashoka Vesekara, Executive Director at Transparency International Sri Lanka. Nice to have you back on the show, Ashoka. Also joining us this evening is Kirti Tendakon, Executive Director of Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. Nice to have you on the show as well, Kirti. Joining us this evening on the show is the news editor of The Island, Shamindra Ferdinando. Nice to have you on the show as well, Shamindra. So let's start off tonight's show with Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor, The Island. Shamindra, what is the current state of political affairs right now in Sri Lanka ahead of the 10th February 2018 local government polls? Your time starts now.
Actually, I am here today with 2 people who have campaigned for the oust of the previous government. So it's an interesting situation. Having campaigned for President Maithripala Sirisena in the run-up to January 2015 election, and then again in August 2015 election, they have been compelled to take a different stand today. And I always appreciate the position taken by Kirti Tendakon very publicly. He has fearlessly criticized this government, fearlessly. The same cannot be said about the Transparency International. So the situation...
What we'll do is we'll give an opportunity for the speakers to give their remarks as well, because it won't be fair during your time frame to talk about the activities of those organizations. So tell me, what is the current state of affairs as far as Sri Lanka is concerned?
First of all, we must realize those who had campaigned for this Yahapalana government were compelled to campaign again to get local government elections. That's number 1, right? Those days that you have been asking for free and fair elections, but under Yahapalana, you had to demand, insist, LG polls are held. They postponed elections by over 2 years. Now they are facing the electorate on February 10th this year. You must realize the situation this government is in, right? Although people talk about free and fair elections, and the campaigners have been demanding that the people of Sri Lanka elect honest politicians to represent them at village level. We know the situation in Parliament. It's an extremely corrupt place, and the SLP has accused the UMP of corruption. The UMP has accused the former president and his people of corruption. So President Sirisena, when he addressed the nation on January 3rd, very clearly admitted that there was very serious corruption charges against both the SLP and the UMP. So we must realize the people actually have no choice, right? You have one crowd, a group of people contesting under the Pohottuwa symbol, who have been chased out by the people of this country and who have been accused of waste corruption. Then those who had replaced them had committed the central bank fraud. So you will see, we don't have honest politicians, we don't have honest political parties. The system is extremely corrupt. People have no choice. So I think people should not expect local government politicians to be honest when their leaders are extremely corrupt. Right?
So what is the option, Shamindra?
We have no
trying
option.
to say that...
Absolutely no option, right? Now, when we see the coverage received by the joint opposition, people realize that they have lot of support. But we cannot forget the fact that they were removed by the people of this country because there were very serious corruption allegations against the former president's government.
Thank you very much, Shamendra Ferdinando, news editor of The Island. I want to give 20 seconds for Asoka Obesekar, Executive Director at Transparency International Sri Lanka, if he wishes to rebut any point that was brought forward by Shamendra Ferdinando. If not, I can continue with my questioning. Is there anything that you want to add to what Shamendra said?
No, I mean, I think I would certainly agree with Shamendra that Kirti has been a very outspoken critic of the government. I mean, I wouldn't say that we haven't been. I mean, when we look at the statements that we've made on the central bank bond issue, when you look at the work that we almost single-handedly are doing on asset disclosure of all politicians, I mean, those are things that we are, they're pioneering. So the idea that we are sort of, we're not doing our part, I mean, maybe we're not communicating it well enough to Shamendra.
Thank you very much, Asoka. So my first question to you would be, technically, as far as the show is concerned, what is the role of Transparency International Sri Lanka as far as the 10th February local government polls are concerned? What is the role of your organization?
Yeah, so Transparency International Sri Lanka, our main focus, in addition to the other work that we do, we also engage in election monitoring work, but with a principal focus on the abuse of state resources. So we have 25 observers who are not permanent employees, but very committed people from different districts who are observing elections and looking at potential misuses of public resources. And I mean, we have a whole host of issues that have already been reported, which we have forwarded on to the Elections Commission, ranging from cement bags being distributed in Hambantota, to the misuse of vehicles, to the distribution of fishing nets in different areas. So we are looking at the misuse of state resources in the lead up to the election. That said, that's one side of it. We've also been looking at elements around how this mixed electoral system will work. We've been long-term advocates of a mixed system at the parliamentary election level. Now, this is our first example of a mixed electoral system in any election in Sri Lanka. How that will work, I mean, we can I'd be happy to go into more detail in that, but this combination of having a ward-based representative whilst also still having proportional representation, and how those two things work together, that's going to be an interesting thing to see.
Also, you were talking about utilizing state resources ahead of a local government poll. I want to drag your attention to the recent openings of the Morgakanda Reservoir and also the flyover bridge, opening of the flyover bridge in Rajagiriya.
Yeah.
How does your organization view these openings ahead of an election, after a date of an election has already been announced?
Indeed, I mean, we are very public on that, and I think we got front page coverage from some newspapers highlighting the fact that what we were saying was, let's say, using the Rajagiriya flyover as an example, we're not saying inconvenience the public and don't open it. What we're saying is, to be in conformity with the election laws, and there are specific circulars as well which we can flag up, you can apolitically open that. So you don't
How do you do that?
So, I mean, what it means is that you don't have politicians there championing that as something that they have delivered. Now, I mean, I completely understand that that is against our political culture, but that is how you have to be in conformity with the law. And I mean, given the fact that there are people who are at the openings who are also very instrumental in ensuring that the elections are announced, then they shouldn't really be capitalizing on that.
Thank you very much, Asoka Obesekar, Executive Director at Transparency International Sri Lanka. Asoka, I must say, I do recognize the work done by your organization as far as the voting system was concerned. I went to a theatre recently and saw an advertisement that was run by your organization, which was quite good and quite informative for people to understand as to how they should vote at the polling booth. So kudos to your organization on that.
We're hoping that your channel will also show that video.
Of course, why not? That's under discussion right now. So we'll look forward to airing it in the near future. I now move my attention to Kirti Thendakone, who's very vocal, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. Now, Kirti, there was a pat on the back by Shamindra to you saying that you've been very vocal, but there was also a brickbat to you as well, saying that you were one of the campaigners as far as the present regime was concerned, because you wanted to oust the former regime. I'll give you again 20 seconds to respond to that and then move on with the question. Do you want to respond to that, Kirti?
I mean, this is something we have talked about, discussed about in length. People, whenever they are in the opposition, sees that the election monitoring is benefiting them. And it was continuously for last 15 years I have seen that whenever the politicians are, having a difficult time, always comes to the election monitors and appreciate. And once in a while, some politicians, even after going to the office, they recognize that. In the other hand, the government always see that the election monitors are the troublemakers. So we are very happy to be troublemakers when we are concerned about abuse.
Are you indirectly trying to say that Shamindra is in the opposition right now?
No, not really, but this is, Shamindra is putting, as a news editor, well, he, the very experienced news editor, he is getting the pieces where he collecting from the different sources. Absolutely correct. That is has actually happened, of course.
So my question to you, Kirti, let's talk about bolts and nuts of this topic tonight. We're discussing the February 10th local government polls. Kirti, what is the role of the campaign for a free and fair election? Because we've heard a lot of criticism against your organization over the last few years, saying that you all don't have the right to go to a polling booth and start monitoring. But I see you traveling across the country right now, going to every nook and cranny, trying to educate the public on what activities you do. So enlighten the public right now as to what is the role of the campaign for a free and fair election at this juncture ahead of a local government poll.
I think this upcoming local council elections definitely will create a landmark in election culture of this country, because I'm with different approaches. We know in mid-90s, Mahanama and Asanka Gurusingha was going down there in the limited doors games, playing something like 30-40 scores in a very difficult manner and all that. But all of a sudden in mid-90s, Sanath Jayasuriya and Kaluvitarna came, changed the whole game in a very different perspective, and now we are enjoying that sort of culture associated. Now, replacing the mana pair with the voted system and having the same mix system, PR system to calculate the final results or the winner of the local council is very unique. Number one, earlier when we were doing election monitoring, we are category talking about three issues basically. Number one, election law violations in related to the advertising, maybe propaganda, posters, cutouts and banners. How many times we have repeated these in public media and so on. The other thing, abuse of state properties, use of state properties. Now, in this election, we see dramatically reduce of that particular exercise has happened. In the other hand, the law enforcement. From 2008, we were continuously talking about the law enforcement in a fair manner. In this election, we have seen that whatever, candidates, their supporters always do the campaign which they have used to. But here, one thing we notice in this election is that whoever the abusers are doing down there on the ground will be punished if they get caught. For example, 18 candidates were arrested. UNP, UPFA, the Maithripala Sirisena's party and the GLP's party for that matter, SLFP, Muslim Congress, Rishaq Baduddin's people. So everyone, I mean, there's a level playing field when it comes to the law enforcement in that manner. The other factor here, the distribution of goods, bribery in a sense, is bit, which was very much exercised during the previous times, now dramatically reduced, that the candidates and their supporters see that it could lead to election petitions after the elections. So we see that different sort of a culture is taking place. In the other hand, this will be the first election where the counting will take place in the same polling station. Once again, a huge challenge. In the other hand, I think this will be a very crucial election for the media. The way they broadcast, telecast or reported the election related issues has dramatically changed. We have seen that earlier every radio channel, television channel was talking about the abuses. But here, for the first time, we are talking about something totally different. Abuses may be in a different scenarios.
Thank you very much, Kirtan, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. You brought in this example about cricket. However, looking at the cricket team right now, I don't think you can even draw a comparison to what we witnessed in 1996.
I mean, that sort of a change of culture here is happening here.
Absolutely. The change of culture is not really working for Sri Lanka cricket at the moment, unfortunately.
In this election scenario, I think the system is getting better with this particular change.
Let's hope and pray. We have to wait and see whether the process is working or not after the 10th of February polls. I now move my attention to Manjula Gajnayaka, National Coordinator of the Center for Monitoring Election Violence. Manjula, nice to have you on the show again after a lapse of many months. Manjula, this time around, we don't see a drastic increase of election-related violence. Why is that? That's good news, but that seemed a little bit strange compared to previous elections that we've witnessed in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, basically, actually, we are very lucky to hear, and we are very lucky to see that situation, that culture. Basically, I mean, this election will be a critical election because this is the first election to be conducted under the Independent Election Commission. Also, due to various reasons, actually, this will be a critical elections. But anyway, yeah, that as you mentioned, actually, the election violations comparing with last elections, last local government elections, actually that last election conducted under 4 different levels in 2011. But this time actually we are lucky to have an election in one time, the election for all 341 local authorities to be conducted in one day. But yes, as you mentioned, actually the election violation has been drastically reduced because I think the main thing is actually new electoral systems. Now, after 10th of February 2018, we have a representative for each and every ward in Sri Lanka. There shouldn't be a ward without a candidate, without a representatives, without a village level representatives in the country. That is the main reason, because actually though we are seeing that posters and cutouts put in each and every streets in other days, actually no need to put such cutouts or banners and posters on each and every streets, because of people are contesting, candidates are contesting only for 3005 votes, because actually as we observed, there are only between 900 and 3005 votes in a ward. But in rare case, actually Mattakuli and other cases, actually there are more than 1 lakh, more than 20,000 votes in a ward. But normally average is as an average, actually there's between 900 and 3005 votes in a ward. Then due to this new electoral systems, actually that election violation has been drastically reduced. And other thing is actually the action taken by election commissions, in same time Sri Lanka police. After 3 decades we saw that Sri Lanka police acted independent way in 2015 during general election times. In same time, actually, as we expected, Sri Lanka police is working, doing a remarkable job, as mentioned by our colleague Kirti, because actually each and every decision taken by Sri Lanka Independent Election Commissions actually implemented by, in same time implemented by Sri Lanka police. It will be the main reason.
Thank you very much, Manjula Gajanayaka, National Coordinator for the Centre for Monitoring Election Violence. We of course will delve a little bit deep about the electoral system that is currently in effect, as well as how is it going to affect the voter turnout at the end of the day. As far as the 10th of February local government polls are concerned, those issues would be discussed in a matter of time with the four panelists this evening. Let me quickly introduce our journalist this evening. On to my immediate right is Nadim Majid, on to my immediate left is Charita Fernando, and on to my far left is Chaturang Haporachi. So let's start off tonight's show with Charita.
Thank you, Shamil. My first question is to Kirti. Now the Election Commissioner has directed assistant commissioners in districts to check whether any candidates have criminal records, right? And we also know that PAFREL has identified around 56 candidates with criminal records. What happens now after this observation is made?
According to the election laws of the country, if someone is not convicted and put behind the bars for some considerable period of time, 6 months, 2 years for that matter, nothing the law can do on this. The only suspicious is that, I mean, why these political parties are continuously picking up these sort of candidates in a very crucial change of game elections, the first election coming under this particular system, risking that definitely the people might reject these sort of candidates. But here once again we have seen Colombo Municipal Council and Kandy throughout the eastern parts, the coastal areas, and Kolonnawa and the down south, Galle, Radgama, most part of the Galle district for that matter, is continuously having these sort of candidates. The good news is that now the people and the police department is keeping a very close eye on these people. Some people who were protested by us, especially in Galle district, has not come into the light and not doing their campaigning for that particular reason. In the other hand, even though the Election Commission can request, I mean, the information in related to these sort of people, I think according to my knowledge and according to the election laws of this country, I don't think the Election Commission can do much about these sort of candidates. But here, keeping a very close eye on these candidates definitely help to have a peaceful election. And in the other hand, we saw that the huge protest is coming on picking up these sort of candidates. So this will be a definite message to the general secretaries and the party leaders of the relevant political parties to avoid these sort of selectivity, especially with the people with the criminal records, plus the drugs. The drug dealers are everywhere, especially in the eastern eastern province for that matter, is campaigning for this particular election, and they are the troublemakers. They continuously keep on making trouble.
Shamindra, why do you think political parties are fielding, people with this type of background? Are we short of people without blemishes, without tainted characters? Why is this happening?
I mean, you should not pose that question to me, actually. Because in a country where the government in power robbed the central bank, right? Why do you expect honest politicians at village level? Why is that? So I think the election monitors, the National Election Commission, a section of the media, and the political parties have failed to realize the exact situation in this country. You talk about violence-free election today. There is no violence today because the armed forces of this country destroyed the JVP, the second insurgency. Because the armed forces of this country destroyed the LTT, right? In this country, in 2004, if you see the EU report, the EU says the Tamil National Alliance won so many electoral districts in the north and the east with the help of the LTT. Then 2005, the LTT and the TNA together defeated Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. Otherwise, right, he could have easily won the election in 2005. Right? So
that sounds a
Russell
little bit contradictory, right?
No.
I'll tell you a classic example. 2009, the war was over. The 2010 presidential election, we saw election violence. 2015 general elections,
That's a presidential election.
We saw violence as well at the end of the day.
No, but no.
So when you say that
you
there was
cannot
no
compare.
violence because of the JP insurrection, second JP insurrection was suppressed, and then you saw the LTT being defeated in 2009, doesn't really
No, you have to
match
compare.
the story, right?
You have to compare. They almost killed President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga in Colombo. They killed General Lakshman Algama, right? So at that level, this country faced violence at that level. So thanks to the armed forces, we ensured peacefully. The armed forces ensured peaceful elections, right? So that's something we must realize.
But getting back to tainted characters, majority of those who are having tainted characters, the allegation is that, are coming from the Lanka Podujana Peramana, which is headed by GL Peiris right now.
Exactly.
That is one of
why
the allegations that have been leveled. Shamil.
in my opening remarks, I pointed out all these people campaign against them because there were so many corruption charges against the former president's party, right? What happened was the people who campaigned promising a transparent democratic system in this country robbed the central bank. That's what happened. If central bank robbery did not take place, I don't think the former president's party had a chance. No way. Right? So they must be thankful to this government for doing it. Now they did it in 2015 February, right? Because the system allowed the robbers to continue. They did it again in March 2016, right? So in a country where the central bank is not safe, we expect the local government authority to be free and fair.
Shamindra, do you think the bond scam has a bearing? Will it
Definitely.
have a bearing on local government elections?
Actually, Charita, I believe this is a referendum on the government, right? People will think, see, if you see the serious coverage, if you see other channels covering this election, you know, it's a battle between three leaders. Nobody talking about village level, development or building culverts or bridges. No, it's about whether the whole thing is whether the former president's group can exploit the central bank robbery to make an advance, because you see the government has already suffered a huge setback because the Supreme Court did not give in to the President's request. The President sought a clarification from the Supreme Court.
But that has happened in the past as well. Dean Vijayatunga did that, Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga did that, President Mahinda Rajapaksa did that. So based on the constitution powers that is vested on the President has a right to go to courts and ask
Definitely.
whether or not he has his due term in office.
But don't forget, President Rajapaksa always had elections, early elections. Now this government delayed elections.
Scattered elections.
No, see, that's a wrong idea.
No, but that's the exact thing that Manjula just said right now.
Actually,
there was scattered elections. Of course, there was elections. We saw an election every year.
At the beginning,
there was an election every year, Shamindra.
No, the provincial council elections, people always accuse President Rajapaksa of having scattered elections. That's wrong, because in 1988, when India intervened in this country and forced us to adopt the 13th Amendment, President Jayawardena had elections on different dates. So they continued with it. So, but unfortunately, this country blames President Rajapaksa for everything.
Manjula, now you heard those thoughts of Shamindra saying about scattered elections, but I recollect very well that since 2011 we almost had an election every year.
Yeah.
Thanks to
sometimes
the
every
former
month.
president. How do you take this? Is that good or is that bad, or having elections on one go is good enough?
Oh, yes, actually, while accepting some remarks made by Shamindra, actually, that one thing I can't agree with him totally, actually, that he mentioned that due to the destroyed of LTT and insurgency made by JVP, actually, because now we will be able to conduct free and fair elections, but you know that during 1982 and 1982 we had a referendum. Actually, there wasn't such a brutal situation in the country, but actually you know that it was a totally daylight robbery. And January 25th, 1999 Northwestern Provincial Council election, it also actually it was a daylight robbery, but there wasn't such a brutal situation in the country. Then it is very difficult to connect that destroyed of LTT and other factors with elections, and other factors that actually scattered elections. As an election monitor, as I am representing election monitoring missions, actually we can't agree with that. You know that yes, actually Jaya Jayawardena did that. President Jaya Jayawardena did that. But after that, you know what we saw. As an example, I think Kirti will agree with me, 2014 UWA Provincial Council elections. You know that in that elections, thousands of public officers, government officers used by Rajapaksa regime to the elections, the advantage to take the advantage of the elections during that time. Why he actually, whenever, though he had a time to hold all provincial council, I mean three or four provincial council elections together, but what he did actually, he held the elections actually different times.
So you're trying to say that the former president was trying to test the ground to see whether he had popularity.
Trying to test the ground, but basically not the intention of him actually using government resources as much as possible. That is the truth.
Let's go for the facts now. Now, this particular election was dragged more than 2.5 years. It was started from the Batiklo local council, the local government, local councils. 9 councils were due 4 years ago. So, this particular postponement of the election started by Basil Rajapaksa, none other than Basil Rajapaksa. Then, there were delimitation issue. That delimitation was mixed by the Basil Rajapaksa plus the secretaries associated.
Again, Kirti, when
I am taking the responsibility.
Full responsibility.
I am taking the absolute responsibility, and we have continuously said this particular fact. Then, this particular government, after this presidential election and then after the parliamentary election, after the bond scam, as Shavindra said, that they were once again in a very bad wicket. Just because, I mean, they were talked about thieves, corruption, bribery and all that. Within 50 days after they established, they had this bond issue and all that. So they were deliberately delaying the local council elections plus the provincial council elections.
Mr. Obesekar, let me ask a question from Mr. Obesekar. Now even Manjula pointed out that certain electorates in the Colombo district have a lot of votes. North Colombo, especially the area Manjula mentioned, Matakulia, Modara, there are wards that have about 18,500 votes in one ward. So what the major parties have done is to field 3 or 4 candidates in certain areas. But when that happens, there is a situation where even some candidates from the main political parties, the people do not know who they are, and they are not even actually spending any money or doing anything to say that we are the candidates for this particular party. Isn't it a bit unfair? Isn't it a loophole of this election system to get people in?
No, I think this is where this is one of the concerns. Now, going to the Election Commission website, if you want to find out who's running in your ward, you can't. That information is not available on the Elections Commission website.
Okay.
So it is a very legitimate concern. But this also ties into another issue, even connected to the electoral system, because we have discussed in the past this idea of having, and I won't go into all the technicalities, a mixed member proportionate electoral system. But here, in this election, you just put a cross next to what your next to the party symbol. What will inevitably happen in any election where you end up having crosses next to a particular party symbol is that even if it is not observed in this election, and we'll see, but inevitably these lead to two-party systems, right? And it will be very interesting to see how the small parties fare in these elections, because realistically, in many of the wards all across the country, small parties may have strength as in a particular district, but at a ward level, will they be able to win any seats? And it can lead to significant negative campaigns as well, saying you're wasting your vote if you go elsewhere. So seeing how this works is going to be very interesting. On the point about even on multi-member constituencies, many people don't even know whether they are within a multi-member constituency. Yeah. So I mean, lots of lessons will be learnt from this. I'll just add one further point to what was being mentioned before. On the matter of violence, when you actually look through the method of calculating the final result, and then you have the women's representation quota amongst other things, these calculations aren't very straightforward, and there's going to be a little bit of, I suspect, there will be some people who may get a little upset with some of the results. And so this violence issue, whilst it may not be an issue right now, I'm sure Manjula and others are looking very closely to see how things, to see whether things escalate closer to the election date, particularly after the ballot closes and before the results are announced.
Manjula, do you think that all the parties that are contesting in the local government elections, the major parties, the minor parties, the independent parties, all of these parties, have they understood this election system properly?
Not at all, not at all. Actually, we were trying hard to aware people, but actually due to lack of funds, actually we were not able to do that. But still, you know that still we are traveling everywhere. I saw Kirti was in Jaffna last week. Actually, we were in Badulla last week. Election Commission also did remarkable job, but actually they were not able to cover all island. But actually this responsibility should be taken by Ministry of Local Government, Provincial Council and Local Government. Actually they also did very few workshops and seminars. That's the truth of the country. But the thing is, actually the other thing is, I strongly believe that at least in this stage, what voters should know, how to vote. That is the thing actually. But the system, voting system is, voting pattern is this time actually that very simple. We have to put only one cross in front of political party symbol. That may be a easy task for the voters. Then I think the percentage of spoiled votes will be reduced drastically in this time.
Yes, Shamendra, you have something to say.
These all the people, the government, the civil society, the embassies, the US embassy, all the people got together and introduced a system which ensured that the people of this country only vote for a political party. That's the story, right? Having promised this country repeatedly over and over again that you can select a good person to work for you, or we are now told that you are either voting for Seinua, Bulat Kole, right, Otua, or some simple. So one political party, right? So that's the thing. And those who talk about violations do not even realize what is happening in this country, right? The government in power, they engineer crossovers. People are given portfolios. That's a bribe, right? The helicopters are used by the political party in power, so they can move.
No, they are paying, but we have checked.
That's the thing. It's what we don't realize, Kirti, is that the previous president, all the presidents of this country, right, abused power.
Kirti,
You know, that's the thing.
there is truth to what...
If we agree with Mr. Shamindra, actually, that means US Embassy and other people have purchased all 225 members in the country in 2012.
Actually,
we can't forget, we shouldn't forget.
I
because
not
this is
agree with Shamindra in this particular thing.
But Kirti, there is truth to what Shamindra is saying in terms
No, there's
of...
no truth at all.
But there is only the political party on the list.
I'll explain. Now, here, under this system, go for the previous elections results. It was 3 or 4 parties got the members get elected to the local councils. But that particular scenario will definitely be changed. The smaller parties will have a definite chance to get elected.
How, Mr. Tenukon, when the people even don't know what the party is contesting are?
No, I mean, you can say that. But
now there are independent parties.
No, let's see. I mean, after the elections, you will see that. Definitely, yes. The independent groups, I have travelled 17 districts on this remark. And the north and the east, even the areas like Polonnaruwa, the people, the smaller groups, even breakaway groups of the UNP for that matter, is contesting and they are having an impact down there. The people who did not get, nominations from the Pohot tour, contesting with some other parties. And they are filed very strong characters at the board levels. So in Colombo, my guess, at least 9 political parties will have their representation for the Colombo Municipal Council, which we have not experienced any of these local elections previously.
So, Shamindra, that's a good development, isn't it?
No, I don't agree with him. Absolutely not. I believe the smaller parties will be wiped out this time.
Not at all.
Wiped
It is
out.
a big lie.
Yes.
Not at all.
No, but Kirti,
No.
you have to see, for example, take this, right?
Now, as an
Now, I
example-
live in Nedumala.
Nothing.
Take Colombo.
What Shamindra
Only
said,
in
I'll give
Colombo,
answer, yes.
only in Colombo, you will realize that Mano Ganeshan's party will do well, because the last time also to form the CMC administration, the UMB had to receive 6 members elected on his party, right, to form the administration. That's how my friend Mr. Musamil was appointed the mayor, right? But you go to the provinces, you will realize on 11th of February this year, the smaller parties will be wiped out. That is why the Frontline Socialist Alliance declined to contest, right? Being
You had a question for
My analysis and my explanation is totally different from Shavindra. My guess, definitely there will be 9+ parties, independent groups will get elected from Colombo. And if you go to the Giranduru Kotte or the Padiyatala and far most parts of the country, single areas for that matter, earlier it's the UNP, UPAFA, maybe JVP, 1 member get elected. But that particular scenario will definitely be changed. This time, main 3 political parties, Maitripala's, GLP's political party and Ranil's political party is not the only parties who is getting elected. JVP will make it.
Manjula,
the independent
I want
groups,
to ask a
Muslim
question from
Congress will have
Kirti,
a
give me a
hold on
second.
them.
Wait, Kirti, this is my issue with this is what Shamindra initially said as well. On the ballot paper, you only have the political party, symbol and name.
Yeah.
There's no mention of the candidates. Now, even in my ward, where I live, I don't know who the candidates are. So in a situation like that, where the public are unable to know who the candidates are, which parties they're contesting from, this has become a referendum of political parties, has it not?
My electorate is
Actually, there's a very interesting thing. The National Elections Commission and the police are also contributing to this situation. The candidates are not allowed to put up posters.
No,
right?
but nothing. But what we realized was, even at the last election, there was only numbers in the ballot paper. There was no names per se.
Yeah.
But you still
So
you
you
still
would
have an
know who-
understanding of there is a choice. So if you're going to put the numbers in, you still know
Najim,
who
your
that
logic is
corresponding
have
number
no effect on the grounds at the rural areas. I mean, ward is something like having 1,200 to 1,800 houses down there. So how many people are living there? So basically these electorates are filed with candidates from this particular smaller village. The village people knows each other. So once you put a red or a blue or a green or a brown or whatever flag down there, they will identify who's their candidate.
Thank you very much,
it could be an issue in Colombo, municipal areas, the flats and all that, where do not have the note each other.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kirti. But very quickly, Shamindra, I'll give you 20 seconds. Even before the system was, you had the numbers on the ballot paper, so you would know who the numbers are. I recollect before you go to a polling booth, I used to ask people around who's number 1, who's number 2, who's number 3, who's number 4, because people were not allowed to paste posters. So you had a problem there. So how would you say that this is a battle between political parties and not the individuals per se?
I, of course, don't know about other people, the electorate, by I as individual will vote for a political party.
Right. Thank you very much, Shamindra, for your thoughts. We now go in for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's Face the Nation. We're talking about the February 10th local government polls. Ashok, of course, would give you a brief description later on the show as to how you should exercise your franchise. So all that and more coming up after the short commercial break. Stay connected. Stay with Face the Nation. Welcome back. You're with Face the Nation. The topic of discussion today is on the local government polls that would be held on the 10th of February 2018, just less than a month away from the polls to be exact. I now move my attention to start off the third round with Manjula Gajanayaka, National Coordinator for the Centre for Monitoring Election Violence. Manjula, this system, are you for it or are you against it? This electoral system I'm talking about.
Actually, at the beginning, we against that. You know that this is not introduced in 2012. Actually, this, frankly, this is originally introduced in 2008 by Mahinda Rajapaksa regime, leadership given by Mr. Basil Rajapaksa at that time. But after that, 2010, during 2010, we were against that because we clearly mentioned that this new electoral election system will be given so powers to electoral level organizers plus secretaries of the party, indirectly leader of political parties. But actually at that time all political parties were silent. But after that 2012 introduced this new electoral system. At that time the system was that 30% and 70%. At that time actually, that 70% under first past post system, 30% under PR system. But after that actually, after a few years, they changed into 60-40 calculation. But after that what we realized, you know, there's a universal, the universal concept, one person, one vote. All votes has a value. Then according to that argument actually, that now we can't reject that all 20-25 members accepted this system unanimously with some amendments. Due to that actually, this is the law of the country. Now we have to follow this law, and that is what I can't understand why you all are so pessimistic, negative on this system. Actually, you know that always we have a very small vote. We have to campaign only maybe 500 or 600 families, households, and we have to meet only 3,500, basically more than, it shouldn't be more than 900
so
households.
how many members would be elected from the Colombo Municipal Council at the end of the day?
Earlier actually it was 53 persons, 53 members. This time 110 members.
So 110 members for the Colombo Municipal Council alone, am I right?
Yes.
I want to try to understand where is the women representation now going to fall into?
Actually, women representations like this, that each local government area, each local authorities should be 25% women representation after the 10th February. That means there are two lists, nomination list, not one list actually, there are two parts in the nomination list. One list actually, first list, women actually has been given 10% quota in the nomination list, first part of the nomination list. Second part actually 50% from additional list given to women representatives. Then accordingly there should be minimum representation, women representation will be 25%. Accordingly, there will be more than 1,985 women representation in the country after the local authorities election 2018. Earlier, actually, it was 86 women representatives in the country.
Thank you very much, Manjula Gajanayak, National Coordinator for the Center for Monitoring Election Violence. Quite complex indeed as far as the ward, the list and all that more is concerned. So I want to give an opportunity to Ashoka Besegara, Executive Director of Transparency International Sri Lanka, to explain to us, okay, now you have the ward, that is well understood. Where is the list going to come into play now?
No, so the idea is that we all think that the concept of proportionality is where we derive the fairness of a result. Now, as we have seen long before we had our PR system in Parliament, with small changes in vote share, huge massive swings, which would never represented the actual proportionate will of the people. You'd see, let's say when the SLFP got basically wiped out of Parliament with a handful of MPs, the vote share was actually quite, the vote share between SLFP and UNP were actually quite comparable. So the idea of having this mixed system is to compensate for these issues. I'll try to simplify that. So let's just say in a particular area, in let's say the Colombo Municipal Council for instance, if a party X gets 40% of the popular vote, the municipal council should reflect the fact that party X has 40% of its members are from party X. Now the thing is, when you have all of these first past the post ward battles, sometimes the results don't come out like that. So party X with 40% of the popular vote may actually only have 25% of the seats in that in the Colombo Municipal Council from first past the post. So then the idea is that you have this list that you use to top up. So then you top up the number of people to ensure that the number of people, the overall number of people representing that party represents the popular vote for the entire.
So who decides the members of this list that would go on to
so the parties have put forward those lists. One of the challenges which touches on what was being asked of Manjula is going to be the fact that in determining how those lists work, we also have the women's quota of 25%, and the challenge with the women's quota of 25% is the Elections Commission is going to have to make a determination as to how that, in every local government authority, of how that 25% is constructed. And so when you actually go through the actual fine-tuned details of the law, and for any person listening in, I mean, if they go to section 65AA of the Elections Ordinance, there's a very clear way in which smaller parties don't get burdened with the women's quota, things like that. So as a result, there may be people who don't fully understand this right now, who when the election results are announced, may actually say, hang on a second, that's an unfair result. Yep. So that challenge is potentially there. So that's just something for
Thank you very much,
all of us to be aware of.
Ashoka Besegara, you can't have the cake and eat the cake, that's for sure. Then at the end of the day, you start wondering, why do you even have the cake if you can't eat it? So I now move my attention to Kirti, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. Kirti, looking at this system which has now been implemented, it's quite complex. Let's say the people don't want a particular individual, but the political party puts this individual to the list and then gets him to the council. But he would never have a vote if he contested a ward. In a situation like that, isn't it a bit unfair on the people? They have not voted for this individual in question, but the political party in question has the right to appoint this individual based on the majority that they get. Isn't this unfair?
Yeah, that's a bit unfair, but here this particular provision is provided to ensure that, I mean, the good will happen and the good intentions are there. For
Good intentions, my God, that's a very
good intentions, I mean, for here, just think of a person, the young guy, he's coming, contesting this election, maybe lost with a few votes to a former, a man with 10, 15 years experience. And done a lot for this particular area, for that particular ward and all that. So he has given a fight. So I mean, there must be a mechanism to get this young chap into the system, as he's shown some sort of a way that his man is capable of doing that. And the other hand, I mean, this vote system will have very upset results. And the people, the candidates, has not understanding the system very well. For example, I saw one particular politician with some, who had something like 15 years of experience is on the additional list. Just because the parties thought that this man will definitely do a campaign all around his particular local council and get his team won. For that matter, just think of a scenario. Now that particular political party is having a something like 16 seats on the council, and 11 or maybe 12 votes won by the male candidates of that particular area. So not a single woman was won for that particular party from that particular local council. So the issue here, so the election commission will have no other choice but to ask the political party secretary to elect 4 female candidates.
Now I have a question. You speak about good intentions. Now this government was appointed with good intention to protect democracy, good governance, but that's not happening at DLP.
That's,
so
I mean, it's not, I mean,
good intentions when appointing members to this particular list in question. It's a far-fetched thinking, isn't it?
Here, Shamir,
wishful thinking, in other words.
Shamir, earlier under the PR system, you know, they put the farmers, carpenters, different professions and all that. In the same time, they need some, you know, thugs, the people who's doing and all that. So they thought they also need some sort of a representation, which whole mixed out the whole system.
Thank you very much, Keith Tennakoon. I get what you're trying to say. Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. I now move my attention to Shamindra Ferdinand, news editor of The Island. Shamindra, a bit complex, isn't it? I want you to look at it as a layman, not as a journalist, but as an individual who would probably go to the polling booth on the 10th of February and start exercising your franchise. How do you think, how do you perceive this electoral system?
This system, this country did not ask for this system, right? Nobody asked for this. No one asked for, requested the government to increase the female representation. Just tell me one organization who had asked for that. Nobody asked for it. But I saw posters put up by the USAID in Colombo supporting this project. So it's a civil society project, I'm telling you. The ordinary people cannot understand what is going on in this country. But it's like this. I can compare the situation with a notice you see at cinemas. Parking your vehicle at your own risk, right? You vote for these people, you don't know what will happen, right? They changed the system at the central bank, they robbed it, right? They had a system in operation from 1997. For 18 years, it was a foolproof system, nothing happened, right? They changed it overnight, they robbed the central bank, right? So the civil society guys and the embassies, the foreigners who funded their campaigns did nothing, right? Now we are told, then we were told, you introduce the 19th amendment to the constitution, everything will be okay. Then the RTI. Now this, you will realize in February this year, this will not change anything.
But Shamindra, I've seen a lot of your articles that you've published. You've got information through the RTI thanks to the Right Information Act.
Whether I use RTI or not, I would have definitely got that information. I mean, if you're talking about how our corrupt members of parliament obtain duty-free vehicles are usually obtained. I mean, I have reported about Transparency International, right? Certain things that had happened there last year. I have reported it. So whether we use RTI or not, if journalists want it, serious as you know, that then the TV1 and other television stations also, when they want to get some information, they somehow get it.
But now you can legally obtain it.
Yes, it'd be easier, but still we get our sources.
Thank you very
Always.
much.
Maybe the one thing that I would add there is
Yes,
that, I mean, obviously Shamindra has his interest in the human resources, and his friends who used to work in our organization are probably quite strong. But looking beyond that, looking at talking about the issue of women's representation, now, I mean, just 50. These are the statistics. 52% of this country are women. 54% of the graduates in this country are women. 62% of the professionals in this country, according to the Labour Force Survey, are women. 49% of the people who go overseas to earn the foreign exchange that allows us to live are women. However, in Parliament 6%, in provincial councils 4%, in local government authorities 2%. So, I mean, the idea that is not an issue, I mean, it illustrates that there are, I mean, when people have opinions but they don't understand the data underpinning it, that's the dangerous thing.
No,
right?
but,
so I mean, like
I
that is a very so I mean, when we hear that data, the fact that women need to be better represented across the, I mean, and it's not going to change things tomorrow. This is not a short-term thing. This is a medium-term thing. Yeah. You know, so
yes, I need to get
add on to Ashoka's point here. In areas like the eastern coastal part of the country, in Katankudi, for example, we saw that, I mean, women is not coming and all that. But here, during the last 3 weeks, I have visited 2 times for this coastal area. Now, last week, of course, during the Friday, I saw the women is coming there, talking very openly, and they are talking about their burdens and how difficult they are campaigning and all that. And in the other hand, they are suggesting the male supporters to get their things sorted out.
So
I think that's where the election system is changing. It's happening in a very, very fast way.
Before starting the clock, Shamindra, do you want to add something? Because
no, I just asked a simple question. I just like to know who asked to increase the women representation. There must be some organization.
Yes, who asked to increase the women representation?
I think this is something which has been sort of championed by many organizations for a long time. Right. But the one thing that I would say is that I feel that the data underpins the need.
Thank you very much.
I just want to know one organization, just name.
I want to open the floor for questions. So let's start off with Chaturanga.
Thank you, Sham. I want to ask a question from Mr. Obesekara. Now, I asked earlier from Manjula whether all these parties have understood this election system properly, and Manjula said, of course not. I want to ask you a question with regard to this. Now, we just started speaking about the female representation, but we also spoke about the situation where if you take a look at the Colombo Municipal Council and major municipal councils where some people would not even know the parties that are contesting. But now we're talking about a change in the election system. And we are also going to see the same thing happening again with a list, the people coming in, people who don't know that the people are contesting. What is the change except for this female representation that the people can see?
I think the fundamental change is that now one person, in practice it may anyway happen. You know, people may campaign around a district, let's say, for the parliamentary election, but they may well still have their particular polling division or constituency that they represent. But here, you have one person who is the person who has to take responsibility for your particular area.
Let me ask you the follow-up question there. Now, where I come from, in my ward, there are 3 people contesting for one political party. There are 2 people contesting for the other major political party. There are 2 people contesting for another political party. Who's going to take the responsibility of actually carrying out the work?
So, I mean, I would say that, yes, in a multi-member ward, the dynamics change a little bit. But multi-member ward is very I mean, it is, I don't know what the percentage would be, but I'm guessing 98% or 99% of all wards would have one representative.
If I ask you this question, what will your answer be? Theoretically, the election system is a positive thing, but if you take a practical approach to it, is it actually a good thing? Because now you're saying multiple seats, there's a problem. There is this female representation problem. There is the list problem. So practically,
I mean, I think it's a good thing. As Kirti touched on, this actually, I mean, now people always hark back to how Felix Das Bandaranaike was unseated in Dompe. In the same way, someone who has a very, very house-by-house approach can actually have an impact. Arguably, the amount that you have to spend to win an election, if you are very committed to knocking on every single door, dropping a flyer through and speaking to someone, you can win in this election. Before, when you have a large area to canvass around, that was I mean, it was financially prohibitive. However, this is where we have to see how this all pans out. The cost of losing also becomes greater. Because now, let's say in the Colombo district, if you're 6th on the UPFA list, I mean, you still win. Here, you need to win your constituency. You know, you don't want to come second. So, there will be challenges, but it's certainly a good thing.
Ashok, a very quick question. You brought in some statistics to the table saying that 52% of the population in Sri Lanka are women. And you said there is a need in Sri Lanka to increase women representation in the political fora. However, in Sri Lanka, women can't even go and buy alcohol. How serious are we really to give this opportunity for women? My question is very simple to you.
I mean, it's, I've got a feeling sometimes some of those utterances that we've heard recently, I mean, are
how
playing to
serious
certain
are we?
audiences.
Because we don't want women to go and buy alcohol. And we're talking about female representation in the local government bodies.
I know. You're dead right. I mean, it is contradictory. But maybe that's something that you could ask the President's media division.
Chandra's face, by the way. So, Charita, yes. So,
my stand on this, my experience on this is totally different. Some females has disciplined the councils. For example, Colombo Municipal Council, the 2011 election, one of the female candidates who get elected there, represented the Colombo Municipal Council, told me a very interesting story. I mean, she was, harassed in a bit by, in a way, by all these the members down there. She went, she bared it for 2-3 days, and next day she,
Kirti,
she made it.
Kirti,
wait,
I
finish.
Kirti, but the problem is not that.
I didn't finish it.
The quality, the quality of the people, the quality of the women. You speak about disciplining women. I totally understand, but the quality of the women who will be elected to the councils, even if they are not elected, there has to be 25% representation. How is that going to be possible? The quality
I think the people who are campaigning at the ground levels will definitely, the people will choose the people. I mean, they know the people who are contesting, and the people know who is doing the better campaigning, and the people know who are the better educated
Even if
people.
they are not elected, through the list they have to be elected.
I mean, don't forget about 10% of the women is contesting under the votes. They are doing a very good job, and they are putting a very big fight for the male down.
Why can't that happen? Why can't that happen on the basis of goodwill, as you said before? Why can't political parties say we will do the
political parties did not allow the female candidates to contest under the PR system.
So you're trying to say
they
that
were
you can never trust
suppressed with the
politicians.
violence, they were suppressed with money, and there was all the barriers put on.
So you're saying that
now
you can
it
never
was
trust
made
politicians.
mandatory. It was made mandatory now. So now the political parties are doing it.
So now
even the Muslim parties are doing it, and I know some of the Muslim women will definitely get elected under the vote system.
And you're saying that you can never trust politicians.
I won't say that.
You just said it so.
No, I mean, the issue, never trust, I mean, we know the system, get the two main political parties.
Yeah, Asoka, there are people in the list that females in the list that the Manjula spoke about 2 lists, and there are people in the list, female representation, and there are also females contesting in the election. So why couldn't there be a situation where these people, are they, if you take a look at it, are the female representation in the list the people who can't contest and win, or is that what is going on, or why are they not contesting in the first place? Obviously they have a political will, they are in the list for a particular party, and why are they not contesting then?
Why GL Pires strategy Arukumar Disanayake was put on the national list? The same theory applies. Why Harsha Di Silva started his career at the national list?
But do we want, so we speak of a change in the electoral system and we say that this is the change we want. We also say that there should be a female representation to say this is the amount, and we also speak of once again a nationalist people coming in through the back door.
It's not back door. Definitely it's national list or the additional list, not the back door. So
What is it?
It's open the profit. For
But the
some
people who can't
professionals to
contest
come
are in the
into
list.
system. So see that, I mean, GL Pires started his the politics with the national list. Harsha Didi. So many politicians we can name. So they made the brilliant politicians. Quality politicians. So under that particular PR system, of course, how can in a people on the caliber of GL Pires or Harsha for that matter come to contest with all the people who's doing drug dealing and all that, getting all the illegal money to pump in, having thousands of money to spend on the posters and all that? How can they do it?
Manjula, I want to come to you. Just before that, I think Charita will agree with me when I say this. I think we should possibly not go too deep into women's representation because there aren't enough women on that panel, and that automatically disqualifies it.
Yeah, earlier not, Nadim, maybe women are barred from, buying alcohol, but there are certain women that produce
And selling, of course.
manufacture alcohol. Right?
But Manjula, I want to ask you this question. This is something that has sort of been on my mind lately. Is can you have a successful mixed electoral system without a dual ballot? Can you have it on with this sort of single ballot system where you're just voting for? If you don't know who the candidates are, essentially you're voting for the party.
Yeah, before answering to that, actually, can I made a remark what
Of course, yes,
Mr.
of course,
Shamindra
yes.
mentioned. Actually, there are there are section of people who are, they can't live without concept of phobia. Okay? Then I don't know whether Shamindra is in that list. Actually, if we are agree with Shamindra, this totally new electoral system, this electoral system introduced by US Embassy and other foreign embassies actually, if so, actually Honorable Dinesh Gunawardena also a CIA agent. Why? Because in 2002, there was a well-known parliamentary well-known parliamentary select committee established to review electoral system. He's the person who first actually discussed on electoral, there should be a mixed electoral system.
I just have mentioned, if you go into the history of our politicians, you will find hypocrisy everywhere. But my question is this: I want to focus on the system itself. Can you have a successful mixed electoral system without a dual ballot?
Actually, the thing is, actually, in the first discussion was in 2010. At the beginning, we were discussed with the election commission also. At that time, actually, there was an election department with the election commissioner, and everyone gathered in that discussion. Kirti, Mr. Rohane Tiarachi, Asoka, everyone were there. Actually, at that time, what we discussed to introduce mixed system, what applied to German and New Zealand. I agree with you that if there is a mixed system, there should be a two ballot systems. It is no argument with that. Actually, I saw that TI also issued a report.
So therefore, there is a deep flaw in this electoral system, isn't there? Because it is a single ballot.
Well, I think where the flaw is that if you want to ensure a plurality of parties, then you need the dual ballot. The single ballot, and I mean this is not about, I mean ultimately Sri Lanka is not the center of the world, no. There are a whole host of different electoral systems that we can see across the world. When you choose to have a single ballot as opposed to a dual ballot, it just creates two-party systems.
But that's what Shamindra was saying as well, that
Indeed,
this will erase
indeed.
the smaller parties.
No, indeed. I completely. I agree with Shamindra on this matter. I mean, I think
Elections results will show both Ashok and Shamindra is wrong on this.
No, but you can't. You can't say that, Zakir. That's not fair. You have to respect everyone's
But
opinion.
experience around the world shows us that a single ballot gives bipartisan.
No. Go to Giranduru Kote.
No,
Go
we're
to
talking about-
Giranduru Kote, the rural area place that we have talked about only had 2 or 3 political parties get elected, produce members. Right? This election will be at least producing 4 or 5.
Shamindra, first of all, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to Manjula, because Manjula said that you have a phobia.
Of what?
That's what I want to ask Manjula as well. Manjula
Certainly.
Phobia of
when
women representation.
when the LTT at your organization was there, then nobody, when the LTT ordered the Tamil people of this country don't vote, nobody issued a statement. Nobody cared.
We did. Dr. Pakisoti Saravanamuttu did.
I
the
asked
famous-
him, he issued a statement, but the fact is they were allowed to continue.
No, but when you say that they did not.
No, I mean basically
We are the only organization
yes,
who
the only
has
organization.
on that.
And here,
And Dr. Pakisoti
in a
Saravanamuttu,
program,
only the person actually at that time
Yes.
did a statement at that time.
So the thing is that we were told in 2014 December, January, that you bring in a new government, that everything will be okay, good governance, accountability, everything. Today we know that the Supreme Court judges have handed over the report, the bond report, to the President. It has been sent to the Aegis Department. For 15 days, nothing has happened. Right now
That
we
don't
are
know,
told.
You can't.
Now
you
we
can't
are
assume
told.
that. We don't know what's happening.
What
Not
do you
everything
mean?
is going to be privy to the media or any other.
You will
organization,
realize,
right?
my friend, you invite the same panel again in the 3rd week of February. You will realize all the smaller parties will be wiped out.
Not
right?
at all. It is
Wiped
a big
out,
lie.
right?
It's a big lie.
It's a battle. If you just show me one instance, the print media or the electronic media or Sirasa carried a speech made by a candidate. It's a battle between former President Rajapaksa and the incumbent President.
No, but we have been carrying statements of political party representatives.
You always
Shamindra.
give the top slot to the former president, the president, Mr. Vikramasinghe, the leaders. Right? It's a national election. I am telling you, this is a referendum on this government. Right? People will not think about candidates.
Yes, of course you can. You get an opportunity. But Shamindra, looking at what's happening right now in Sri Lanka, don't you agree that let's take the Eastern Province for an example, where Kirti brought in a very good point. A political party, an independent group, gets around 3,000 votes. That means one person from that political party is eligible to represent the council, which is good news. That means that it's not going to be just absolute.
Will be enough.
So it's good news.
See, the people who arranged this system never realized that they were going to increase the total number of members from 4,000 to 8,000. Right? Who is going to pay them?
Everyone knows that it
Right.
happened with the committee stage.
Right.
Everyone
Who is going to
would-
pay? Who is going to pay Kirti? Not you or me. It's the
Yeah,
taxpayer
that's
of this country, right? So somebody has to pay 8,000 people. They have to accommodate them in councils. So who is going to pay? You must realize the ordinary people of this country are struggling to make ends meet, right? Right, the parliament, there's nothing happening in parliament, nothing happening in provincial council. So do you expect the local government authorities to do something?
Charda, get back to your image, just Ashok, you can add on to that.
Even looking at how things were when Parliament was first past the post as well, you will have independence. You will have a few people who create a little bit of a stir and win against the odds. But the system is generally stacked in favor of big parties.
Right. Yes,
Ashok, I
Charda.
have a question for you. What will the outcome of this election really mean? I mean, in terms of local bodies that are offering critical services like waste management, maintenance, all that. will the voter have a better, will voters have sort of the opportunity to secure better services from the local government bodies, or will it be a signal, or will it be something that could check the pulse of the public?
I think you're touching on a very important point there, which is actually that is completely outside of the national discussion. I mean, will service provision and everything actually improve for anyone? That's, I mean, it's a very important question, and actually, I suspect it probably won't. The one big advantage, the only advantage, is that for your given area, you will know without a doubt who is responsible. So if something is not functioning in your specific area, there is one, in most instances, there will be one person or maybe a couple who you can hold accountable.
So certain wards in the country will have to be like, okay, so I have 3, so I have no way of getting my things done. Is that what you're saying?
So I mean, in multi-member wards, you'll have a few more people. You'll have a few more people, but typically it's the identification of individuals. That said, I mean, you know, looking at these concepts of whether there are going to be citizen charters and all of these sorts of things within these local government authorities, as there have been in the past in certain local government authorities, that has to be seen. But I mean, when it comes to service provision, there's nothing that we're seeing up till now that suggests it's going to be any different.
Charita,
Now, yeah.
if the same question was posed to me, I'll tell my experience what happened with the 2012 elections in the Northern Provincial Council. Kilinochchi and Mullaitivu is the 2 areas what I am talking about. So for that particular area, local council was, you know, just introduced after the war and all that. So they didn't know how to campaign. They had so much of issues related to the, you know, contesting and the election systems and all that. So, but we had some, you know, we help all these political parties. I mean, candidates, we continuously meet in these areas, and yes, in Mana, we were supposed to meet something like 60 people, and more than 300 people
The point
came.
is what? Yes, the point is what?
Yeah, what I'm saying, so when we had that sort of a connection, you know, engagement with the candidates, they get elected. Some of
But
them
that
get
was
elected.
the previous election system.
Yeah, previous 2011 election, what I'm talking about. Just after they get elected, you know, they didn't know the system, how the government system works and all that. But they made phone calls, they made continuous
That's not a
inquiries
problem of the
to
public,
people.
Mr. Tennagon. That's
No.
a problem of the people who got elected. The fact that they
I
didn't
mean,
know what to do.
after 30 years of war, how can they know about the system? Right? I am talking about Kilinochchi and Mullaitivu. I said at the very beginning. So, but here, within 3 months, they improved. They improved better than any other parts of the country, and they got the systems. They got the money.
They got elected into the provincial council using the previous system that existed.
Local council, what we are talking.
Local government elections using the previous system that
Previous
existed.
system. It
So
is
it
not
worked in Mullaitivu and Kilinochchi.
Yeah,
Is
it
that what you're
worked.
saying? So then why was a new election system introduced?
That's, I mean, this issue was talked about, right? Who are the people demanded for this particular
That's what
election
Mr.
system?
Shamindra asked. Who are the people who
It
demanded?
was Maitripala Sirisena. It was Mahinda Rajapaksa. In Maitripala Sirisena's manifesto, parliamentary election, he talked about the without Manape vote system. So electoral system basically. So everyone agreed basically. Main political parties agreed on. Here, you have to start somewhere. Are we having a better system? It failed. Continuously it failed. So we should try something new.
So you're confident that the system will not fail?
No one can give the guarantee of failing and all that. Just talk about a provincial council, for example. The people like Percy Samaravira, Veeravanni were down there as the chief ministers. Now we are having Sampath Tushar Dasanayaka, who was kneeling down the principals down there at that particular area.
He denied it.
He denied. Forced some other people, get some media people and making a statement. So when we accused him, we didn't mention his name. So he is the one came out and said we did it. And why
we
that
put his name.
He put it name.
No, we
down.
put his name.
I know. You put
very much,
I published the name. Yes.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts.
Because you are so sure that
because there is no
we're
point
going for a
in
short
making a
commercial.
navigation without naming the
When we
vote.
come back, we will discuss more about the upcoming local government elections and the final thoughts of the 4 speakers that we have invited today. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. As I promised to our viewers before, I'm going to give 2 minutes to Asoka to explain as to how the voting system happens. When you go to the polling booth, how you must vote and how you select your political party, because it's a dual ballot paper that we have.
No, no, it's not a dual ballot paper.
It's not the dual ballot paper that we have, right?
Yeah.
Yes, single ballot paper.
Yeah.
Sorry. So my mistake there. So I want to know, how must someone go to the polling booth and start voting? I'll give you approximately around a minute to explain that, and then we'll get into the final
With a
round.
minute, how can you do it?
Okay,
Be
Aso
fair.
can do it. Aso can do it.
No, I
Yeah.
think I need only a few seconds, I
Yes,
think.
yeah.
No, I mean, ultimately, the ballot paper is very simple. Unlike before, when people were having to remember preferential vote numbers, everything else, someone should try their utmost. Ideally, people will have come and knocked on their door and you would have received a few leaflets, but you should try to find out who the different candidates are in your constituency, in your ward rather, and when you're voting, you put a cross next to the symbol which of the party that or independent group that you are voting for. It's very, very simple. It's as easy an election as anyone would have experienced in a long, long
So
time.
Asoka, let's say someone goes to the polling booth without knowing about the candidates in a particular ward. Would that information be available at the polling booth?
Yes.
That
In front of the polling station, there will be a notice carrying out all the names who's contesting for the vote, plus the additional list.
Right. Thank you very much. So let's get on to the
And
final.
even before 3-4 days, I mean, you are receiving the polling card. With the polling card, the election commission is sending all the people, all the names who's contesting for the vote, plus the additional list for the local council.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your explanation on how to go to the polling booth. And it's quite simple. You have the political party, any political party that you wish to exercise your franchise, you can do so, and that means the person who is representing that particular ward from that political party will be representing the council. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for those input on the show. So let's get on to the final round of Face the Nation tonight. Let's start off with Manjula Kajanayaka, National Coordinator for the Centre for Monitoring Election Violence. Manjula, we've seen in the past this happening. Political party candidates, politicians who lose elections get to the national list through other means, because there is a list available. So is that going to be open this time around as well? If a political party representative, a politician, a ward member loses an election, can he enter again into the fray through the list? Your time starts now.
Yes, it will happen this time also. Actually, we can't expect a comprehensive electoral system in any country. This will happen, but it is up to voters. That basically, actually, all powers has been given to electoral level chief political party organizers, plus secretaries of political parties, indirectly leaders of political parties. Actually, once they fail to get elected into the relevant councils under the first nomination list, that means vote-based list, actually anyone can appoint as the member into that particular local authority by political party secretaries. Actually, it also indirectly chief electoral organizers. But as Kirti mentioned earlier, actually there will be a great chance, because if there is a close contest within a ward, it always open avenue to elect that close contestant. I mean, there should be a capable person who lost their seat in that particular vote. Actually, that can be happen, and any political party chief organizers or political party secretaries can appoint that person as a member.
So
that is the positive
so there can
thing.
always be someone like the best loser who gets into the council as well.
Yeah, actually best losers, that mean actually there's when we are talking on additional list, it is up to political party leaders and chief electoral organizers. That is why we were against in 2010, even 2010.
Thank you very much,
in this particular reason.
Thank you very much, Manjula Kajanayaka, National. I'll give you a minute. I'll come back to you, Kirti, in a minute. Thank you very much, Manjula, for explaining that to us in your final round. I now move to Asoka Besekara, Executive Director at Transparency International Sri Lanka. Looking at what Manjula just said right now, you know, even if someone loses from a political party in that particular board, he has an opportunity to come back to the council once again through the list. Why are we making it so complex? Why not go for a referendum system where you vote for the political parties, you know exactly how many votes every political party is going to gain at the end of the day, and then start appointing individuals to council based on a women fancy, based on what the political party leader or the representative has to choose from. Why not that? Why make it so complex for Sri Lankans? Your time starts now.
I mean, first and foremost, I think the actual exercising of one's franchise, ticking off on the ballot paper, is not complicated. It is actually as easy as it can be.
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
But however, I think you're right in highlighting the fact that ultimately so many of the decisions which are made regarding electoral reform are not about enhancing voter choice, but are about strengthening political party positions. And I feel that this electoral system, I mean, reflects the fact that the politicians that we have elected have come together in ensuring that their parties are strong. The parties hold the greatest amount of strength. So, I mean, this is not a new thing, you know, and this is just some more of the same. The only thing is that potentially the quality of the representation by having a local person who is in your ward, that is the positive.
Thank you very much, Asoka Besekara, Executive Director at Transparency International Sri Lanka. And now you begin to wonder, they should have made it much more simpler for the people so they know exactly who is going to go onto the list and who will be representing them at the council. I want to give an opportunity to Kirti Nakun, who has been wanting an opportunity to speak. Kirti, do you want me to ask a question or do you want to rebut the points?
I just want to add something what Manjula said.
Right.
Just get the Colombo Municipal Council. There are 4 main political parties are contesting. In my view, in 3 out of these 4, 3 political parties, their main candidates, mayoral candidates, might get lost. Right? If that sort of a scenario happens, there must be a space, these experienced, capable people to put on the council down there. For example, JVP is having a very professional chief mayoral candidate. Asad Sali is coming from the Maitripala Sivasena's party. Mr. Rajapaksa is coming from Portur. So, I mean...
is representing
from the UNP. All these people, I mean, with this particular system, vote system, maybe 1 or 2 of them can get defeated with the system. So, I mean, the parties thought, I mean, theirs are the best candidates to lead this particular system, political party down there in the council. If the systems fails, I mean, is that says, I mean, JVP, I mean, we know all the mentioned names are very experienced, capable, professional politicians. So, there must be a way to allow these people to contribute at the council. So that's why this particular additional list is coming up.
Thank you very much, Kirti Nakun, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. Just a very quick question to you. You're not in any of the list, are you?
I'm so sure about it, Kavin.
That doesn't sound like a denial.
I want to move my attention.
Always asking for the denial. Come on.
I want to pose a question to Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor of the island. Shamindra, 225 members in parliament and we are already having problems. They can't unite with one voice to get something enacted or they want to get something passed in parliament. You have 8,000 plus members now with this system. Can Sri Lanka really foot the bill? Can Sri Lanka go on like this? What's going to happen? Has anyone thought about this aspect?
First of all, I must tell you, with regard to the statement you made about Parliament, all the political parties and members of Parliament will swiftly agree when they get things done. Like additional 100,000 rupee pocket money or duty-free vehicles, they'll agree. So there's no issue. Similarly, the local government members also will agree about a good payment, I mean a salary, allowance. So there's no issue there. But I request the people consider this election as a referendum on this government and think very carefully and vote for a political party, any political party. Just don't think about village level development or female representation, just leave them out. Think about a political party, a good political party, and vote for it. And don't expect the provincial councils or the parliament to succeed, because the entire system is corrupt from top to bottom, bottom to top.
Thank you very much, Shamindra. While respecting Shamindra's opinion on the local government elections with regard to a referendum, I must mention to you very clearly that is only Shamindra's view and not representing any of the views of the three members who are seated here, nor us as a network. So Shamindra, you have to take full responsibility for the statement that you make on the show, as you very clearly will know. Thank you very much, Manjula Gajanaka, National Coordinator of the Center for Monitoring Election Violence, for joining us this evening on the show. Shamindra Ferdinand for joining us this evening on the show. Asoka Besekara, Executive Director at Transparency International Sri Lanka. As said before, Asoka, your organization is doing quite a good job to tell the people as to how to vote. So that would raise an eyebrow as far as the people of Sri Lanka are concerned. They will know to go to the polling booth and start voting. Kirti Tendakon, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Kirti, if it was a politician who was representing today on the show, we probably would have asked him, are you going to resign if there are no 9 political parties who are going to represent Colombo Municipal Council? But I'm not going to do that with you. I'm not going to ask you whether you're going to resign from as being the Executive Director of Campaign for a Free.
I'll still wait for more than that.
for Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. It's always nice to hear Kirti bubbling with optimism. We'll have to wait and see on the 10th of February 2018. 11th of February we would know whether there are 9 political parties in the Colombo Municipal Council or not. If not, we will hold you hostage for sure, Kirti. Thank you very much, Nadeem, for joining us this evening. Thank you very much, Chaturanga. Thank you very much, Charita. Charita, female representation.
More women in the panel as
we
well,
certainly need more women
well.
on the show. What are your thoughts about female representation, just to get an understanding? Do you think it's worthwhile to have 25% female representation in the local government bodies?
Yes, definitely, yes. It will obviously give more opportunity for our voices to be heard, and also to look into some of the problems that women face.
So thank you very much, Charita, for your thoughts. Charita is the Assistant Manager of Newsfirst on Newsfirst. So thank you very much for joining us this evening on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on board as well. So it all boils down how serious is really the government. You have, as Asoka very clearly pointed out, 52% the population are women. We have only 4% representing Parliament, 2% local government bodies, and then women can't even go to a bar and buy some alcohol. So how serious are we as a nation to give female representation a proper voice at the end of the day? I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always like to do, with democracy substitutes election by the incompetent many for appointment by the corrupt few. Take care and good night.
I like that.